The shelter workers thought they were saving a German shepherd from the streets. Unaware, they were leaving behind a hidden nest of fox cubs in the brambles, shivering and alone. Just hours later, a storm rolled in, drowning the fragile cries of the orphaned animals beneath torrential rain. By dawn, two cubs lay lifeless, their spirits snuffed out by neglect and betrayal. As I held the last survivor in my trembling hands, I felt the weight of a family torn apart by the very people meant to protect them. My name is Talia, and this is where my fight for justice begins. With the last cub cradled against my chest, I rushed to the safety of my car, the chill of the rain soaking through my clothes. My heart raced as I turned the key in the ignition, eager to escape the scene of abandonment. The little fox cub shivered, its eyes fluttering open as if sensing my determination to protect it. In that moment, I felt an unbreakable bond forming. I could not let this tiny creature down, just as I had failed to protect the others. Driving home, I fought back tears, each drop of rain a reminder of the storm that had ravaged the shelter. My mind swirled with thoughts of my family. I could already sense the tension brewing between Jason and my parents. I hoped that the warmth of the cub's presence would bridge the gap in our family, if only for a moment. As I pulled into the driveway, I resolved to show them the importance of compassion, how one small act could change everything. When I stepped inside, the warmth of the house enveloped me, contrasting sharply with the biting cold outside. I found my mother in the kitchen, her gentle hum mingling with the aroma of simmering stew. She turned and smiled, but her expression shifted to concern when she noticed my soaked clothes and the bundle I held close. "Talia, what happened?" she asked, wiping her hands on a dish towel and moving closer. "Mom, I found this fox cub at the shelter," I explained, my voice trembling with urgency. "It was the only one left, and it needs help. Can we take care of it?" Maria knelt beside me, her motherly instincts kicking in immediately. "Of course, honey. Let's get it warm and dry first." She led me to the living room, and as I laid the cub on a soft blanket, my father entered the room, his brows furrowed. David's gentle nature was often overshadowed by the weight he carried after losing our family dog last year, but I hoped this would ignite a spark within him. "What's going on?" he asked, concern etched on his face. When he saw the fragile creature, his eyes softened. "Is that a fox?" I nodded. "They left it behind at the shelter. We can't just leave it alone." David knelt beside me, examining the cub with cautious curiosity. "It's beautiful, Talia," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I could see the flicker of recognition in his eyes, a reminder of the love we once shared for our pets. "We should give it a name." Just then, Jason stormed into the room, his presence charged with teenage angst. "What's this? Another stray you feel the need to rescue? Don't you think you should focus on something more important?" His words cut deep, and I bristled at the accusation. "This little guy needs us, Jason, just like the rest of our family does." I desperately wanted him to understand the connection I felt to these animals, that saving them was a way to heal our own wounds. "Family? You mean the family that just overlooks me?" he shot back, his frustration spilling over. "It's always about the pets with you, Talia. What about me?" Maria interjected softly. "Jason, your sister is trying to do something good. We're all hurting in our own ways. Why don't you help us care for the cub?" Jason folded his arms, his defiance palpable. "Why should I care? No one pays attention to what I want." His words hung in the air, heavy with unresolved resentment. I felt the tension in the room escalate, but I refused to let it derail my resolve. "You're not overlooked, Jason. I know you're struggling, but this little cub needs all of us right now. Let's work together. It could help us heal." David placed a hand on Jason's shoulder, his voice steady and calm. "Let's give it a try. This could be a chance for all of us to come together, to find some light amid the darkness." As the storm continued to rage outside, I could see Jason's posture soften just a bit. "Fine, but I'm not feeding it," he mumbled, though a hint of curiosity crept into his tone. The night unfolded into a gentle chaos of feeding bottles, blankets, and whispered discussions about names. We laughed and reminisced about the dogs we had loved and lost, our shared stories weaving a tapestry of connection that had frayed over time. The little fox cub, whom I decided to name Ember, became our unlikely centerpiece, a living reminder of hope and resilience amidst our struggles. As we settled into a routine of caring for Ember, something began to shift within our household. Jason, once so rebellious and defiant, found himself enchanted by the cub's tiny antics. He began to spend time in the living room with us, laughing at Ember's playful nips and watching as the cub slowly adapted to our home. I watched as the walls around my brother's heart began to crumble, if only a little. Later, in the quiet moments before bed, I pulled David aside. "Dad, I know you're still hurting about losing Max, but caring for Ember might help us all heal, including you." David sighed, a weight of sorrow resting on his shoulders. "I know, Talia. It's just hard. Losing Max felt like losing a part of our family." His vulnerability broke my heart, but I also felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for his openness. "We can create new memories," I urged gently, "together." He nodded slowly, determination creeping into his eyes. "You're right. I want to be there for all of you." As I climbed into bed that night, the sounds of the storm outside faded into the background. I felt a flicker of hope. We were still broken, but perhaps, through Ember, we could begin to patch the wounds that had long been festering. Tomorrow, I would focus on making a plan to save more animals and include Jason and Dad in the process. It was time for our family to truly come together, to face the challenges ahead as a united front. The next morning, sunlight streamed through my window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. I sat up, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Today was the day I would share my vision with my family, the day I would pull them into this mission that had unexpectedly become a part of us. I could already imagine the look on Jason's face when he realized he had an important role to play. He often felt invisible, overlooked as the youngest, but this time I hoped to show him that he mattered. After a quick breakfast, I found Dad in the living room, staring out the window with a distant look in his eyes. I approached him cautiously, knowing that the topic of our family struggles weighed heavily on him. "Dad," I said softly, "can we talk about something important?" He turned to me, his expression shifting from contemplation to concern as he nodded. "Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts like fragile leaves blown about by the wind. I found Ember, the German Shepherd, at the shelter, and it turns out she's not alone. There are fox cubs too. I want to rescue them, but I can't do it alone. I need your support, and I think Jason should be involved too. His brow furrowed, but I pressed on, eager to share the vision I had formed overnight. "This isn't just about the animals. It's about us, Dad. We can work together, and maybe it will help us heal some of what's broken." He looked at me, his eyes reflecting the pain of loss that had settled in our home like a permanent shadow. "Talia, I want to help, but you know I struggle with these things. Losing your mother, it's made it hard for me to see beyond my own grief." The words hung heavy in the air, a reminder of the scars we all carried. I reached out, placing my hand over his, hoping to bridge the emotional gap that had grown between us. "I know, Dad. I feel it too," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "But we can't let the past define us. If we focus on helping these animals, maybe we can start to mend our family too. Jason needs to feel like he belongs, and I think this could be the spark we need." His gaze softened, the warmth of his love seeping through the cracks in his resolve. "All right, Talia, let's do this. We'll talk to Jason together." With newfound determination, we made our way to Jason's room, where I knocked lightly on the door. "Hey, Jace, can we come in?" There was a moment of silence before I heard a reluctant, "Fine," and I turned the handle. As we stepped inside, I noticed the chaos of his room, clothes strewn on the floor and posters peeling off the walls. Jason was sprawled on his bed, earbuds in place, his face a mix of defiance and curiosity. I could see the flicker of interest in his eyes as I explained my plan. We're going to rescue Ember and the fox cubs, and I want you to help us. You're a vital part of this." His expression shifted, the rebellion in him cracking just enough to let a hint of excitement shine through. "You want me to help?" he asked, incredulous. I nodded vigorously, trying to convey how important this was for all of us. "Yeah, Jace, it'll be an adventure. Plus, we could really use your skills. You're great at figuring things out." He sat up, the initial skepticism fading into curiosity. "What do you want me to do?" I grinned, thrilled that he was willing to be a part of this mission. "Well, we'll need to set up a safe space for Ember and the cubs when we bring them home. And I thought maybe you could help build a little enclosure for them in the backyard." He considered it for a moment, and then a spark ignited in his eyes. "All right, I'm in, but I get to design it however I want." I laughed, relieved and excited that he was on board. It felt like a small victory, but a meaningful one, and I could sense the shift in our family dynamic already. As we started to make our plans, I could see a glimmer of hope in Dad's eyes as well, a sense of purpose beginning to replace the shadows that had loomed too long. Together, we brainstormed ideas for how to create a safe haven for the animals. Maria joined us, her nurturing spirit adding warmth to our plans. "This sounds wonderful, Talia. It'll be great for Jason to have something to focus on, and I can help with resources and community outreach. We might even find someone who can assist with the fox cubs." Mom's excitement added another layer to our mission, invigorating all of us as we discussed logistics and what the first steps would be. I felt a surge of energy coursing through me, a sense that we were finally coming together. We even created a group chat on my phone where we could share ideas and updates. In that moment, I felt like we were on the brink of something beautiful, a chance to reshape our family's narrative and connect with one another through our shared love for these animals. As the day unfolded, we gathered supplies, created lists, and mapped out our plan. The journey ahead felt daunting, but I was no longer afraid. I had my family with me, and together we were determined to make a difference. I knew that rescuing Ember and the fox cubs was about more than just saving their lives. It was about saving our own. As evening approached, I reflected on how this endeavor might mend the seams of our family, binding us together in a way we hadn't experienced in years. With a heart full of hope, I realized we were beginning to heal, and that, more than anything, was worth fighting for. If you're inspired by stories of compassion and love, be sure to subscribe for more heartfelt journeys ahead. As I stood there, watching the sun dip below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the shelter, the reality of our mission began to sink in. The abandoned German Shepherd, whom I had named Max, sat patiently by my side, his soulful eyes reflecting the struggle he had endured. It was as if he sensed my determination and understood that I wasn't just there for him. I was there to fight for the helpless creatures hidden away in the shadows, the orphaned fox cubs that needed our help. They had become a symbol of resilience for me, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of our lives, there existed a flicker of hope. My thoughts drifted to Jason. I had sensed his frustration over the past few weeks, the way he would slink around the house like a ghost. His rebellious spirit only amplified by my parents' obliviousness to his plight. I wanted him to be part of this mission, to see the power of compassion in action. It wasn't just about the animals. It was about us as a family, rediscovering our strengths together. Perhaps this would be the catalyst that would spark the change in him, an opportunity to redirect his pent-up anger into something meaningful. Later that night, I gathered everyone in the living room. The air was thick with tension as I spoke about Max and the cubs. David, who had been lost in his thoughts since our family tragedy, looked up with a flicker of interest. His protective instincts kicked in as I described the shelter's conditions and the urgent need for rescue. Maria, always the nurturing one, immediately began brainstorming ways we could provide a safe haven for the animals. But it was Jason's silence that worried me. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed tightly over his chest, seemingly uninterested. I couldn't help but feel a stab of disappointment. Was he truly going to disengage from something that could bring us closer? I needed him to see that this was more than just saving animals. It was about saving ourselves, too. "Jason," I said gently, attempting to pierce through his stubborn exterior, "you love animals. Remember the time you found that injured bird and nursed it back to health?" He shrugged, the corner of his mouth twitching in a half smirk, but I could tell there was something deeper beneath that facade. "We need your energy and creativity. You could help me set up the shelter for Max and the cubs. Think about all the ways we could make their lives better." His eyes flickered with curiosity for just a moment, and I seized the opportunity. Imagine how fulfilling it would be to see them thrive because of us. It could be our chance to bring some light back into this house. I held my breath, hoping my words would resonate with him. Maria's voice broke the silence. "Your brother is right, Jason. We've all been feeling lost since, well, you know. But this could be our way to heal as a family." The tension in the room began to shift as David spoke up, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I know I haven't been the best father lately. I've been so caught up in my grief that I've neglected you both, but I want to change that. I want us to be a family again, to fight for something together." Jason finally uncrossed his arms, his expression softening as he considered our words. "What do you need me to do?" he asked, a hint of enthusiasm creeping into his voice. "Everything!" I exclaimed, my heart racing with excitement. "We need to set up a safe space for Max and the cubs in our backyard. We'll need blankets, food, and a secure area where they can play and feel safe. I could use your help building a shelter for them too." Jason nodded slowly, and I could see the gears turning in his mind. "Okay, I'm in. But if this is going to happen, we need to do it right. I want to make it awesome." With a newfound sense of purpose, we all huddled together, brainstorming ideas and sketching out plans for our backyard sanctuary. As we worked late into the night, laughter began to fill the air, echoing through the walls of our home. It felt like the first step toward healing, a collective effort to mend our broken hearts while also giving love to those who needed it most. The following morning, our adventure began in earnest. Armed with my savings and a list of supplies, I took Jason to the local hardware store. I marveled at how quickly he transformed from the rebellious kid I knew into a passionate advocate for our cause. We filled our cart with everything we'd need: wood, nails, paint, and a plethora of pet supplies. It felt good to see him so engaged, and I couldn't help but feel a rush of gratitude for this opportunity to bond with him. Afterward, we headed to the shelter to check on Max and the cubs. When we arrived, I was taken aback by how much had changed in the short time since my first visit. The staff were actively working to improve the conditions, but I knew we could still offer them something better. Together, we approached the kennel where Max lay, his tail wagging furiously upon seeing us. "Hey, buddy," I said, kneeling beside him, my fingers threading through his fur. He licked my hand, and I could feel a connection forming, a mutual understanding of the fight that lay ahead. The cubs, hidden away in a cozy corner, peeked out at us with their curious, innocent eyes, igniting a fire in my heart. I promised them silently that we would not abandon them. As we worked together, our laughter and voices echoed through the shelter, attracting the attention of other volunteers. Soon enough, we had a small team forming around us, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was no longer just about rescuing animals, it was about creating a community, a family united by a common goal. For the first time in a long while, I could see the bonds of our families starting to knit together, each moment of shared laughter and purpose becoming a thread in our tapestry of healing. We were on the brink of something beautiful, a journey that would require all of us to stand together, and I felt a surge of hope radiating through me. We were not just saving animals, we were saving ourselves. As we settled into our new routine of caring for the rescued animals, I noticed how different my family seemed. David, who had often retreated into himself since Mom's last community project had taken a toll on him, now found solace in the presence of the German Shepherd. He spent hours sitting in the yard, the dog's head resting on his knee, while he murmured stories about my childhood and all the silly things Jason used to do. Those tales became a balm for our wounds, reminding us of laughter and light even amidst our shared sorrow. Meanwhile, Maria seemed to flourish too. She took charge of the orphan fox cubs, pouring her nurturing spirit into every bottle feed and tiny paw that she cradled. Watching her with them, I couldn't help but see a glimmer of the woman who was once so vibrant, her laughter echoing through our home. It was as if these helpless creatures had reignited a fire within her, prompting her to reclaim that part of herself she had lost to the weight of family obligations and her own grief. Yet, amidst our shared healing, I felt the tension with Jason intensifying. He often withdrew, slipping into his rebellious persona, pushing boundaries and ignoring our new responsibilities. I could see the flicker of anger in his eyes whenever I mentioned helping with the animals, as if my passion for rescuing them overshadowed his need for attention. One evening, after a particularly heated argument, he stormed out of the house, the screen door slamming behind him. My heart sank. The last thing I wanted was for my brother to feel even more isolated. Determined to bridge the gap, I decided to follow him into the dusky streets of our neighborhood, my mind racing with thoughts of how to reach him. I found him perched on a fence outside an abandoned lot, tossing pebbles into the shadowy darkness. "Jason," I called softly, hesitant to disturb his solitude. He turned, his expression a mix of surprise and annoyance. "What do you want, Talia?" he snapped, but I could see the hurt behind his bravado. "I just want to talk," I replied, inching closer. "I know things have been tough lately. You feel like you're being left out, and that's not what I want. We're all in this together. You're part of the team." He scoffed, the bitterness in his voice unmistakable. "Yeah, right. A team of people who only care about animals now. What about me?" His words struck deep. I knew that my focus on the animals had drawn attention away from him, but I hadn't realized how deeply it had affected him. "You're important to me," I said earnestly, my voice steady despite the lump forming in my throat. "I want you with us. Help me take care of the foxes. They need someone who can be a little wild, someone like you." For a moment, he looked at me as if weighing my offer. Then, with a reluctant sigh, he hopped off the fence and fell into step beside me. "Fine," he muttered, kicking at the gravel beneath our feet. "But if I'm doing this, I'm doing it my way." I couldn't suppress a smile at that. Jason always had a flair for the dramatic, and maybe his uniqueness could help us in ways I hadn't considered. The next morning, as the sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, we gathered around the makeshift pen that had become home to the fox cubs. David joined us, a contented look on his face as he helped us set up their feeding area. "It's good to see you two working together," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "It reminds me of when you were younger, always creating little adventures." I felt my heart swell with pride at the thought. Perhaps this was the adventure we all needed. Jason took the lead, adopting a playful, almost theatrical persona as he approached the cubs. "All right, little furballs, it's showtime," he exclaimed. And for the first time in weeks, laughter erupted from all of us. Watching my brother interact with the cubs, gentle yet spirited, filled me with hope. Maybe he was finding his place. And in that moment, I realized that our healing process was not just about the animals. It was about rediscovering each other. Days turned into weeks, and our family continued to grow closer, not just through the shared responsibilities of caring for the animals, but through the conversations that began to flow more freely. David shared stories of his childhood pets, and I could see the way his eyes lit up when he spoke about them, as if he were reclaiming pieces of himself he'd long buried. Maria began organizing community events focused on animal welfare, inviting Jason and me to participate actively. The three of us worked alongside her, planning fundraisers and awareness campaigns, each event knitting us tighter together. One day, while we were cleaning up after one such event, I noticed Jason slipping away from the group, an unusual look on his face. I followed him around the corner where he was crouched down, staring at a lone fox cub that had become a little too quiet during the festivities. "Is he okay?" I asked, concern etching my voice. Jason looked up, his expression shifting from annoyance to worry. "I don't know. I think he's feeling left out," he admitted, a soft vulnerability creeping into his tone. I knelt beside him, realizing the parallel between the cub's feelings and Jason's own struggles. "Let's make sure he knows he's not alone," I suggested, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Together, we created a little space for the cub, ensuring it had the attention it needed. As we nurtured the little creature back to health, Jason's expression softened. The act of caring for the fox seemed to awaken something within him, bridging the gap between his past grievances and present joy. In that moment, I understood that our journey extended beyond the animals we rescued. It was about healing our hearts and rekindling our connection. We were not just saving lives, but also finding a way back to each other, an unbreakable bond forged in the fires of compassion and empathy. Together, we would continue to face whatever challenges lay ahead, stronger as a family, united by our love for each other and the creatures we had chosen to protect. As we stood together, surrounded by the chaos of the shelter, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The German Shepherd, now named Max, wagged his tail, his eyes brightening with hope, while the tiny fox cubs curled up against each other, their eyes still barely open. I knew we couldn't just walk away. These animals needed us just as much as we needed each other. The shelter had become a sanctuary for the broken and abandoned, not just for the animals, but also for my family. I glanced at Jason, his rebellious demeanor softened by the sight of the fragile cubs. I had seen him at odds with our parents, his struggles often dismissed as teenage angst. But in that moment, I hoped he would feel the weight of responsibility, the call to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Maybe this would be the turning point for him, a way for him to channel his frustrations into something meaningful. "Let's take them home," I suggested, my voice barely above a whisper. The thought of nurturing them brought a surge of warmth into my chest. David nodded slowly, his expression contemplative. He had been hesitant about adopting any pets after losing our old dog years ago, but I could sense a flicker of determination within him. I wanted to believe that this was the step forward we all needed. Maria, ever the optimist, stepped in. "We can create a safe space for them in the backyard. The dogs can be together, and we can keep the cubs separated until they're old enough to explore." Her nurturing instincts were always at the forefront, and I admired her ability to see potential even in the most chaotic situations. As we drove home, my heart raced with anticipation. Jason had finally put his earbuds away, watching the world outside with a newfound curiosity. "Do you think they'll grow up to be just like regular dogs?" he asked, his voice tinged with wonder. I could see the gears turning in his mind, a flicker of excitement sparking where frustration had once dwelled. "I think they'll be unique in their own way," I replied, hoping to nurture that curiosity. "Just like us, we all have our own paths." His brow furrowed slightly at my philosophical comment, but I could see he was processing it, considering how he fit into the family tapestry that was slowly being rewoven. Once home, we set about transforming our backyard. David helped me construct a sturdy enclosure for the cubs, while Maria supervised as Jason collected blankets and toys. As we worked, I felt a sense of unity wash over us. The shared laughter and lighthearted teasing began to erase the tensions that had lingered for too long. I was grateful for the distraction of the animals, something that had become a catalyst for our family's healing. Over the next few weeks, the dynamics began to shift. I found myself waking early to feed the cubs, their little faces brightening at the sight of me. Each time I held them, I could feel their fragile hearts beating beneath my hands, and I was reminded of the fragility of our own family bonds. I was learning to be more patient and present, acknowledging that every little moment mattered. Meanwhile, Max became a loyal companion to Jason, who took it upon himself to train him. I marveled at how the once rebellious boy now spent hours tossing a ball, watching Max chase after it with unbridled joy. The way their bond blossomed was a beautiful reminder of the unexpected connections that could arise when we opened our hearts to others. I could see Jason gaining confidence, gradually stepping out of the shadow of feeling overlooked. As the days turned into weeks, the fox cubs grew stronger. They began to venture out of their makeshift den, their playful antics bringing laughter to our once quiet home. Maria took on the role of caregiver, researching everything she could about raising foxes. Her enthusiasm rekindled a spark within her that I hadn't seen in years. She invited neighbors and friends over to meet our unique family edition, sharing our story and drawing others into our journey of healing and hope. But amid the joy, I noticed David retreating into himself at times, his eyes reflecting a sadness I couldn't quite understand. One evening, while we were gathered around the dinner table, I decided to gently broach the subject. "Dad, is everything okay? You seem a bit distant." The moment hung in the air, the clattering of dishes falling silent as everyone turned to him. He sighed deeply, his gaze flickering to the window where the cubs played under the fading light. "I just worry," he admitted slowly, the weight of his grief evident in his voice. "It's hard to let go of the past. I see the animals, and I remember everything." His vulnerability opened a door I had almost forgotten was there, one that connected us through our shared losses. "Dad, we're not replacing anyone. We're just creating new memories," I said softly, hoping to reassure him. "These animals need us, and so do we." Maria reached across the table, placing her hand on his. "We're healing together. Let's be there for each other. We have to embrace what's in front of us." Her voice was steady and filled with love, reminding us all that together we could navigate through our pain. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow on our little family, I felt a swell of gratitude. We were learning to support one another, to communicate, and to confront our emotions, even when it was uncomfortable. The animals had become more than just companions. They were our bridge to understanding and healing. Our journey had only just begun, but I could see a path forward. We were finally stepping out of the shadows of our past, ready to embrace the future together. It was a reminder that no matter how fragmented we felt, there was always hope in the bonds we nurtured. If you've experienced something similar with your family or a beloved pet, I encourage you to share your story. Together, we can create a tapestry of hope and healing that inspires others to open their hearts and find the beauty in vulnerability. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the yard, I felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety. The previous night's efforts to care for the German Shepherd and the fox cubs had exhausted me. My body ached, but it was a good kind of ache, a reminder of the purpose I had found in the chaos. Yet, as I glanced at my brother, Jason, sitting on the porch steps with a distant look in his eyes, I realized that this endeavor was more than just about saving animals. It was about mending the fractures within our family. Jason had always been the wild card, the one who craved attention in all the wrong ways. With his rebellious streak, he often clashed with our parents, and lately I had noticed him pulling further away from us. He was slipping through the cracks, feeling like an outsider in our family. I understood that his antics were cries for help, but my focus had been pulled towards the animals, and I feared that it might have unintentionally added to his sense of abandonment. I approached him cautiously, unsure of how to bridge the gap that had grown between us. "Hey, do you want to help me with the dogs?" I asked softly, hoping to engage him in a way that felt meaningful. He turned his head slightly, the flicker of interest in his eyes giving me a glimmer of hope. "We can take the German Shepherd for a walk, and I could use an extra hand with the cubs." His gaze lingered on the ground for a moment before he slowly nodded, rising to join me. Together, we walked to the makeshift shelter I had set up in the backyard. The German Shepherd, whom I had named Max, seemed to sense the energy shift between us. He bounded toward Jason, tail wagging as if he was a bridge between us. For a moment, I watched as Jason knelt down, tentative yet curious, allowing Max to nuzzle against him. The connection was instant, and I could see the tension in Jason's shoulders ease slightly. This moment felt like a small victory, a step towards healing both his heart and mine. As we walked through the neighborhood with Max, the setting sun painted the world in warm hues. Jason began to open up, sharing stories about his friends and the things he had been doing. I listened intently, surprised by how much I had missed in his life lately. He spoke with a passion that I hadn't seen in a while, and for the first time in ages, it felt like we were reconnecting. I shared my experiences with the animals, and to my delight, he asked questions. Each inquiry was a thread weaving us closer together. When we returned home, Maria was waiting for us, her hands covered in flour from the evening's dinner preparations. The aroma of something delicious wafted through the air, mixing with the earthy scent of Max's fur. "How was your walk?" she asked, a smile spreading across her face when she noticed Jason's animated demeanor. He launched into a description of Max's antics, and for the first time, I saw a sparkle in Maria's eyes that had been missing for too long. It was a reminder of how our shared love for these animals could rekindle the warmth of our family. David joined us a little later, his presence filling the room with a familiar sense of safety. He had been working late, trying to provide for us despite the emotional weight he carried. As he settled at the table, I felt a surge of gratitude. My parents had weathered storms together, and their resilience was a source of inspiration. I knew they were still grappling with their past choices, but tonight felt different. The table was set, the food steaming, and laughter began to fill the gaps that silence had left behind. "Guess what, Dad?" Jason exclaimed, breaking into a grin. "Talia and I found a German Shepherd, and I think he's going to be part of the family now." David's eyebrows shot up in surprise, but the corners of his mouth turned upward as he glanced over at Max, who was lying contentedly on the floor. "Well, that's good news. Dogs can be great companions." His approval felt like a gift, a small affirmation of our shared decision to rescue Max and his newfound friends. As the evening wore on, stories flowed easily between us, with each shared laugh further stitching together the fabric of our family. Maria gently encouraged Jason to help her with a new recipe, while I settled next to David, discussing the challenges of caring for the fox cubs. We were all contributing, each of us finding our place in this new chapter. That night, after everyone had turned in, I couldn't shake the feeling that something profound had shifted. I wandered outside for a moment, standing beside Max, who raised his head to meet my gaze. The stars twinkled above, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of peace enveloping me. I understood that our journey was just beginning, a path that would lead us through challenges, but also towards healing. With Max and the cubs as our catalyst, I believed we could mend the rifts that had formed and find strength in our shared purpose. The days to come would be filled with work, challenges, and perhaps even setbacks. But with my family by my side and a renewed sense of connection, I felt ready to face anything. I was determined to protect not only the animals, but also the bonds that held us together, knowing that love could overcome even the deepest wounds. In the heart of our home, amid the laughter and chaos, I felt a flicker of hope that, together, we would emerge stronger than before.